Mermaid, and welcome to Jupiter's Radiance. I'm Taylor, and today we're going to be talking about the first week of October and a card spread that I'm calling Steady On. Let's go ahead and get into it. So this card spread is to support coming down from a project or emotional time and sustaining a rhythm. So that's why we just have an easy flat pattern here. And so one is going to be for how to pause in order to right yourself, like straighten yourself up kind of situation if you are imagining it in your head and you're like on a walk. And then two is going to be about like the routine that is needing to be established or to continue, and then how to maintain, to give you a little bit of advice on how to make that routine a little bit easier for you and to lean into yourself as well. Because I think a lot of times when people think of habits and routines, they think I need to change something about myself, but I have found that it is so much more effective to lean into your habits. I'll give a small example, and then I encourage you to explore it further for yourself. For bigger examples. So a small example is saying when you come home, you always put your keys in this certain spot, but it's not the spot that you have designed for your keys. So then you end up feeling like you've always lost your keys because you're like, oh no, they're not where I intended to put them, but they are where I always put them. And so in that way, what you do is that you change it and you're like, you know what, instead of me getting so frustrated that I'm not putting them in this spot that I clearly indicated for them, I'm just going to change it to the spot that I keep putting them in. You know, instead of changing, like you can change the destination so that it meets you where you're able to arrive. So I hope that made sense. If you want a better metaphor or need further understanding on how to like lean into yourself, or if you have an example for yourself of like, oh, I get very frustrated with myself about this and I don't know how to change this habit or routine, feel free to comment below and let's problem solve together. You know, because it is such a relief when you lean into yourself and then you start to see that progress being made, and your mental space also clears up of that shame or guilt that you put on yourself for not being able to do that habit or routine. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and jump into our collective reading. And so for number one, how to pause, we have surrender to the divine full moon. So this is very much like to pause, just essentially come to a full stop. The first thing that comes to mind for this is also to maybe do a surrender meditation, to just put you, because sometimes surrendering people feel like it is doing nothing, but there is an act in surrendering. So doing a surrendering meditation, I'm sure there is one on YouTube. If I'm able to find a link one, I definitely will. But you're able to essentially notice more what it means to truly surrender and how the body relaxes more. And so there is a little bit of an ask here to say, to kind of trust a little bit more outside of yourself and that you're not the only one working or concerned around this issue. Okay, and so the routine that is being asked is your commitment is being tested. So what's interesting about this is because this is a collective reading, this tells me that this is going to be individual for each person. And when this flips over, there's going to be something that you probably immediately thought of where you're like, oh, my commitment towards this is being tested. And so that is going to be the routine that we're discussing here. And so what's interesting about it being the first quarter moon in this cycle is that it is typically the period between the new moon and the full moon, and the halfway point, if you will, where you start to see like, okay, I need to keep this motivation, this momentum going, essentially. And there's certain things that haven't been working. And so it's kind of like when rockets take off into the sky, the way that they gain momentum is that they release elements of the ship to further push them into space and to exit our gravity. And so with that, that's kind of what this card has, that energy of it as well. So a lot of times when we're like, oh, our commitment's being tested, it means we need to put more full force into everything. But for the first quarter moon, it actually saying to put more full force into what is working and let go of what isn't, and just focus on the successes that you're able to achieve. So let's go ahead and look at our how to maintain, and we have practice spirituality and practicality. So, oh, sorry, it's balance spirituality and practicality. Okay. And so this is a very clear-cut thing of stating there has been a little bit too much focus in one area, and to kind of give yourself a little bit more grace to go back and forth. You are not meant to be perfect, and know this. Actually, okay, so I just rewatched the movie Eat, Pray, Love, and in it, talks about the fact that sometimes you lose the balance of the now in order to maintain the balance of life. So that is kind of the energy behind this card, I feel. I also always believe in our divine timing, so like how funny that the next day I'm doing this reading for us and we have this card coming up, because there's this fear of losing balance, but typically when we are engaging with that fear, it means that we are out of balance already. And so it brings us back to the fact of just surrendering to the divine. And another energy coming with this is kind of having more fun with yourself. Like, you're reaching these goals maybe to better yourself, but also to enjoy life more. And so if it is such a struggle to get to that point, there is a need to understand how much it's worth it and how much struggle is necessary. And that brings us back to the routine, right? So I definitely, from this thread, I encourage you to go easy on yourself. Let go of what isn't working, at least for the next week, right? That's what this is about. It's not like, oh, never come back to this thing. It's just for the next week. And allow yourself to enjoy the successes that are happening. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I want to thank you guys for being here as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below. Let me know how this is resonating with you, if you're doing these card spreads for yourself. And I will see you guys next week. Blessed be.